Hi, this is CSQB, and I'm here with Hector Oseguera, fresh off of his Democratic primary race, which happened last Tuesday. Unfortunately, he lost, but he received 23% of the vote, with 47% reported, and that's a great showing for a first-time candidate. First question is, in your Twitter profile, it shows you are an anti-money laundering analyst. So tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So thank you so much for having me on. My career is basically focused on rooting out corruption. What I really do is that I look at financial activity and I'm looking for what is called money laundering. So what is money laundering? Money laundering is when somebody steals money. Let's just say, for example, you was to rob a bank, right? Or you're a big time criminal, you steal a lot of money. You can't really turn up at a bank and say, I would like to deposit these funds, because you're gonna get caught immediately. So money laundering is this process that criminals have to go through to make their money look legitimate. My day-to-day job is looking at financial activity and trying to catch people who are trying to do just that. They're trying to mask normal activity to make it look like their illegal activity is on the up and up. And that's really what I've been doing for the last 5 or 6 years. And that's why my campaign was really focused on an anti-corruption message.
Awesome, awesome. So that brings me to my next question. So like you have Jamal Bowman, who was a public school principal, and he's going to take that knowledge to Congress and that educational knowledge. What would be your specialty in Congress, and how can you apply that?
Well, my specialty in Congress, it really would have been in the Financial Services Committee. It would have been getting big money out of politics. It would have been rooting out the corruption that I think we all recognize exists in our federal government, and moving the government more into a people-centered organization rather than a corporation-centered organization. That would have been my big issue and my big expertise that I would have brought to the table.
Okay. So I saw that you worked on the AOC campaign. Of course, before that was Elizabeth Warren, then Bernie Sanders, then AOC. What did you learn from that experience?
Well, I mean, my experience was really that if you have a message that you could bring to the people, if you have something to talk about other than the normal political BS that people are used to, you actually have a pretty good chance of getting through, The same thing goes for Elizabeth Warren. The same thing goes for Bernie, is that they really ran issue-powered campaigns. And that's what I tried my best to do, is to make sure that the people knew who I was and that I had a message that touched upon the problems that they face in their daily lives. I think that was really, that's really the key to success in politics, because a lot of these politicians, people are kind of sick of them, and they feel like they only come around every couple of years to ask for your vote, and then otherwise they disappear from the community. So I wanted to make sure that I was strong on the ground.
Gotcha. So I thought about recently, if I was to join someone's campaign, what would I volunteer for? And I'm more of a technical person, so I can help out with flyers, I can help out with the websites, and I wouldn't be scared of doing door knocking. I would probably want to use my technical skills more. Now, when you worked on Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, AOC, what was your skills? What did you work on specifically?
Well, really, I was just I was going door to door, or I was making phone calls. So I think that I really shine on a one-to-one interaction. That's where my strengths really are. Yeah, I have a good social media presence. I really owe that to my team and to the advice that I got from other people who are a lot better at that. But I really shine in a one-to-one interaction. And I really think that, unfortunately, COVID really had an effect of, kind of cutting me off from an area that I felt I was really strong in. Because if I could have got myself in front of more people, if I could have spoken to more people one-on-one, I think we probably would have did a little bit better. Obviously, with COVID, it kind of left us all working in a digital only space, which is not bad for us either, because we were a younger campaign with a lot more tech savvy people. But unfortunately, like I said, I think I really do my best when I get to put myself out there in front of individuals on a one-to-one basis and speak to them and let them know that you could pose those hard questions. You could really ask me what's the things that are on your mind, and we could really talk it out.
Gotcha. So about your opponent, and I'm gonna ask a couple questions about the campaign race now.
Yeah.
I was reading an article and a Seton Hall professor, he actually said that Abiy Oseguera is a progressive and it's really hard to get to his left. Like this was his quote, right? And I listened to a couple of your other interviews last night, and I heard the story you talked about the ICE. You know, people went to him and asked about ICE.
So a group of activists, they get together and they go to his office, and you know, kind of on that AOC tip, they're like, you know, will you do something about ICE? Will you cut back the spending on ICE, at least until the detention centers get under control, right? This dude says, absolutely not. He says, I'll never cut a penny from ICE. And then he tops it off by saying, ICE does great work.
And then I looked on his website. I wanted to see if he was co-sponsoring the latest Medicare for All, if he was co-sponsoring Green New Deal. Nowhere to be found. So how frustrating is it? And I don't know how many times you heard it on the campaign trail that, oh, this guy's a progressive, oh, he's a lefty, oh, he's a Democrat. We don't need somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, I not specifically that he's a progressive, because he's definitely not, right? I found it very funny for him to go out there and start saying that he's progressive, or even more progressive than me, which is what he wanted to say. And you know, what that kind of said to me is that he even could tell that the winds are shifting, and that to be seen as a progressive is a good thing in our district. But yeah, you know, I mean, it was a little bit frustrating because he votes with the Democratic Party like 90% of the time. So people would say to me, you know, like, oh, this guy's already a good Democrat. Like, why are you going up against him? Like, can you run against a Republican somewhere? Can you go for another seat because this guy's already good? And I would have to get into that talk of like, okay, you think he's good, but let's talk about it. Let's talk about what he's fighting for. Let's talk about the issues that he's not fighting for. Like, is he really a progressive? Is he really a good Democrat? Or is he just kind of like coasting along and not really doing much for the community, which is really my argument. And honestly, I think a lot of people recognize that. I mean, to call him a progressive, anybody who knows what a progressive is would laugh to think that this dude is a progressive, because he's not. You know, just like you said, he's not for Medicare for All. He's not for a Green New Deal. If you go to his website, which I'm sure you went to, there's really not issues there at all. It's basically all platitudes. He says things like, I'm working for our democratic values. I don't really know what that means. There's no issues page on his website. So how, you know, the thing that progressives are really strong on is the issues. So how can you call yourself a progressive and you don't know what issues you're fighting for?
Yeah, absolutely right. Like one thing I found, I happened to be looking up like a couple of Republicans' webpage. Literally, a lot of times Republicans don't have an issues page, right? Yeah. Then with your opponent, I was trying to look up his campaign page, and of course you have your once you're already a congressman, you have your congressional page. But I couldn't find his his website that he was running again, and I couldn't even find it. Like I Googled it, I couldn't come across it.
You want to know why that is?
Why?
Because actually my campaign bought albioceres.com.
Oh,
so if
really?
you go to albioceres.com, you would go to my donation page.
Wow. Okay, that's very smart. Who came up with that idea? You know?
I did.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Very quick thinking. All right. So the next question I want to ask you. So running in New Jersey, I want to dig in deeper to the mechanics. Like, so somebody else who's thinking about running, they can get something out of this interview. So what organizations were you able to reach out to that gave you help? Yeah,
I mean, there's a ton of organizations here in New Jersey, a lot of progressive organizations that were in the space and were doing really hard work. NJOA for Progress is a big one. They helped me out very early. Obviously, DSA, Our Revolution, the chapters of the Sunrise Movement, a lot of environmental groups would come to my side and would say, you know, your opponent is not really a good fighter on these issues. Are you going to be stronger on, you know, Green New Deal, on not taking fossil fuel money, on fighting for Medicare for All? We had a group called Demand Universal Healthcare who endorsed, American Progressives in STEM endorsed us. Like there were a lot of, basically every progressive group in the district this looked at the two of us and decided that my campaign was the one to get behind. So there were a lot of amazing grassroots organizations. I'm probably forgetting more than I'm remembering that, you know, looked at the race and a lot of them have said, you know, we've really been waiting for somebody to challenge this guy. So we're more than happy to get behind your campaign.
Awesome. How did you get on that column A, not me, us line?
Yeah, I mean, that was an accident of history, and I really owe a lot of it to Lawrence Ham, who ran against Cory Booker, because New Jersey ballots are very strangely designed. No other state's ballots look the way ours look, because rather than having it segmented by what position you're running for, it's really based on a column system where people are lined up with other candidates, sort of like as a team, right? And usually it's only the establishment candidates that have a candidate in every single position on the column, which gives them the look of being more legitimate than other people. That's a big issue that we could talk about, because it's a very psychological trick that the establishment plays on the voters of New Jersey. But thankfully, because Lawrence Ham was running for the Senate, we were able to put together what is called a full slate. So we had to compete to who gets column A and column B, which is not something that usually happens. Usually because the establishment is the only one that has a complete line, they by default get column A. Thanks to Lawrence Ham running for Senate, we had somebody at the top of the ticket who was able to compete for that column A position. And at the ballot draw, we were just so lucky that Lawrence Ham got column A and put us on column A.
Wow, that's awesome. I know that's who I voted for. I'm in New Jersey myself, and I came across his campaign, and he's a big activist, and I'm glad that you were able to do that. And I was actually impressed. Like, I looked at my ballot, I saw the Not Me Us column, and it's a gift and a curse. Like you said, there's psychological tricks. But I know enough about politics that I'm like, okay, the Not Me Us, those are my people, and basically voted down column A. All right. So the next question I want to ask you: do you think progressive challengers should continue using the slogan "Not Me Us" as a branding technique and for future campaigns?
Honestly, I think that maybe we got to move on to a degree, because I feel like people will start to say that we're stuck in the past, that we're trying to just like rekindle the Bernie Sanders emotion. And a lot of us got introduced to this through Bernie Sanders, and I understand that. But I think that maybe we got to start going away from the slogans and start going away from that whole column system on the ballot. And we should start to really focus on issues and candidates as well. It's instead of, because like you said, it's a gift and a curse. Bernie Sanders brought us into it, but then I feel like that kind of puts a ceiling on our support. And some people who are not really progressives, like, we have to bring other people into this fold who might not always be the ones that you think are like diametrically progressive. And so if we're going to expand this game outward and really take out some of these establishment candidates, we're going to have to do some outreach to people who we may not have thought would be our voter base. And I think that focusing on the past may not be a winning strategy going forward. So I think that as a movement in general, we got to do a little bit of soul searching and see where we want to take this. But in terms of slogans and all that stuff, I kind of feel like maybe it's time to turn the page on a couple things and find a new direction for us to go in that maybe could be a little bit more successful than we've been. Okay,
makes sense. What is one local issue in your district that you heard from your neighbors while knocking on doors that you didn't know existed before you ran?
I mean, that's a good question, but at the end of the day, I don't think that there's an issue that I ran on that I didn't know was an issue, because I live here. I've lived here my entire life. So all the things that people kept coming up to me and saying like, hey, this is a problem. I was like, yeah, actually, I have a plan for that, because I know that's a problem with like affordable housing, Medicare for all, Green New Deal, anti-corruption, all these things that the people would ask me about. I was actually like, yeah, I know that that's a problem, and I'm more than happy to talk to you about my plan to address that issue, because like I said, I've lived here my whole life. So the things that people kind of suffer from are issues that I've been very focused on for quite some time.
Now I want to ask you some questions about after the election. All right. So do you think there was enough help from other grassroots progressive challengers? Do you think that there could be more? So for example, Lisa McCormick, she ran last time in 2018 against Robert Menendez.
Yep.
And she had a tweet, and there was an article written about how she wanted, progressive leaders to support progressives more, like Bernie Sanders, for example. Lawrence Ham was part of the co-chair of the New Jersey Bernie Sanders campaign. So you would think naturally Bernie Sanders would have endorsed him over Cory Booker. But I think, and me personally, I don't blame Bernie too much, but I do recognize I have my Bernie side eye on Bernie himself because of that situation where he didn't endorse Lawrence Ham. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, I really do agree with you, because it's like a lot of us came, like I said, a lot of us came into this fight kind of like because of Bernie Sanders, and it would have been nice for him to have noticed the work that we had put into it. Obviously, I don't blame him at the end of the day, because it's not, this is what I'll say, is like, it's not up to him to notice us. It's up to us to do the work to put ourselves on his radar. So if Bernie didn't notice us, if he didn't endorse us, like, I would say that that's more to say that we had to do a better job of putting ourselves out there. Of course, you know, I wish that we would have gotten a little bit more support. I wish that we would have gotten a little bit more attention from some of the national progressive leaders. I think that it might have helped in some instances, but at the end of the day, nobody was going to swoop in and win this race for us. Like, Bernie Sanders was not going to swoop in on New Jersey and win the race, either for me or for Larry or for anybody else. It was really on us. You know, politics at the end of the day, it's a team sport, but it's also an individual sport, because you have to win that race for yourself. It's not like any single person could come in and win a race for you. So although I do wish that there was a little bit more support from some bigger leaders, I am very appreciative of the people that did notice us and that did lend their support. I was endorsed by Marianne Williamson. I know some other candidates were endorsed by Andrew Yang. So I do appreciate for those people that did notice us and said, you know, this is a race that I want to get behind. These are people that are doing the right thing. So that does mean a lot to me, but I can't be too disappointed for those that did not notice us or lend their help. I obviously wish that there would have been more of that, but you can't really blame them.
That's a good positive outlook. I'm gonna ask another question I'm gonna ask another question that'll probably help another grassroots candidate that might be running now or in the future. So I really love the way you answered that, because you put the onus on yourself. You used to work for AOC or even Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, all these people. Do you think that when you volunteered, maybe you didn't know enough higher up people to try to get to those power players within their campaign to then get to the main candidate who can then endorse you? Yeah, touch on that a little bit, that inside kind of baseball.
You know, I mean, at the end of the day, I would say that I kind of did know those people, and we did reach out to them in all those cases that you talked about. You know, I've always been a little bit of a social butterfly, so I do meet people and I talk to people, and I'll say that when I first started running, a lot of the people that gave me advice were those people who have a direct line, and obviously, you know, we did do that outreach to see if they would have been interested, but obviously, you know, these people are very busy. They have more things to do than to look up your local progressive candidate who may not have a chance in hell. So, like I said, it's not on them, it's on me. I should have done a better job of putting myself on their radars. I should have did a better job of like making this campaign catch fire. You know, we did everything we could, but to anybody who's running, what I'll tell them is like, don't count on that. Don't think that anybody's gonna come in. Don't think that you're gonna get an AOC endorsement and that's gonna mean that you win, because you know that's not what it means. You at the end of the day, you have to do the work of making sure that you're touching the people in your community, that you're talking about the issues that they care about, and the onus is on you 100%. You cannot expect any person to swoop in and win a race for you, because that's not how this is going to work.
In Jamal Bowman's race, he had another progressive, and that progressive dropped out of the race when I think he saw that Bowman was picking up steam, and I don't know if there's any backroom deal where he dropped out or whatever, but basically that helped consolidate the progressive vote in a strong way. Now, Bowman blew out Elliot Engel, but I was curious, do you think that's something that progressives should come up with, solidarity? And we could even go to the presidential race. You know, if Elizabeth Warren would have supported Bernie earlier, who knows the outcome of that situation when all the moderates consolidated? What do you think about that?
No, I absolutely do agree. And in my race specifically, there was another gentleman who was looking at running, and he was basically like, Hector, I think that actually you're the better candidate, so I'm going to drop out because I don't want to split the progressive vote in the district. And I do think that that takes a lot of character because people say that politics is about me, and self-aggrandizement and like trying to put, you know, some people just run just to get their name out there. So I think that does speak a lot to the person who says like, you know, I kind of wanted to do this, but I think that this other person is the better person for the job, and I'm going to drop out and put my energy into helping them. So I do think solidarity is important. And I do think that at some point, if you come to realize that maybe somebody else could do the job better than you can, it does take a lot of character for you to say, you know, I'm going to drop this race and I'm going to get behind the person who I think could do the job.
Man, I love the way you said that. It takes a person of a lot of character to put the issues, because that's at the end of the day, that's what you're doing. You're putting the issues ahead of yourself, where you say, you know what, I just want Medicare for all, and if I wanted it to be me, but if it's you that's going to make it happen or is going to push for it to happen, I'm going to support you. So I really like the way you put that. So Bernie's flagship issue was Medicare for all. He's always touting that AOCs, the Green New Deal. These are things that they help put into the ether, and you see the support for it skyrocket. I know for me personally, if I ever ran for office, which I'm not, my wife won't let me, but it would be ranked choice voting. I'm really, even though I would probably run as a Democrat, I would definitely be promoting ranked choice voting, because all my life you keep hearing about you're wasting your vote if you vote for one of the main, if you vote for a third party and not the main party. But then at the same time, when they lose, they blame Joe Stein voters, and they blame, you know. So I said, I actually talked to an operative one time, and I said, hey, what about ranked choice voting? Do you think that's something that can actually pass? And she was like, nope, there's no way. This is maybe 5 years ago. She's like, there's no way that's going to pass. And it's just something that's really confusing to me. You don't want people to vote for third party, but then when you have ranked choice voting, that would just let everybody vote the way they want to vote. Why not? So my question to you, what's the issue that you're passionate about that you would say, hey, I'm going to champion this issue and make it my issue?
Yeah, I mean, I really do like pro-democracy reforms. Like ranked choice voting is one that I'm big on, but I also like automatic voter registration. I like making election day a national holiday. Stuff like that is big. But, you know, I said this before, my big issue is really corruption. It's anti-corruption, because I think everybody, no matter who, left, right, center, whatever you are, you ask them, like, do you think corruption is rampant in our government? And they will say, hell yeah, it is. Hell yeah, it is. So I think that it's an issue that we could tackle, that a lot of people recognize is a problem, but a lot of people don't really know how to tackle it. So that I think is, for me, my passion issue. Is like anti-corruption, and how do we get big money out of politics? How do we get more people involved in the process? And how do we make this a system that people recognize as fair and think that has the legitimacy of, you know, their consent?
All right, so you said a couple of things there, but I want you to nail down a detailed policy if you can. Like, what's one thing, if you could put it on a bumper sticker, like, you know, Medicare for all, Green New Deal. I know anti-corruption is, and I've heard you said this in another interview, that it can be boiled down to so many different things, you know. Anti-corruption is so broad. Is there one main thing that you could be like, man, if I could just get this issue passed, that would do a lot for the movement?
Yeah, get money out of politics.
Get money out of politics.
Yeah, money out of politics, because that's, I think, the source of the corruption. And so if I could push to get that like end Citizens United sort of stuff.
Like that, public financing.
Yeah, public financing of elections. Yeah, that I think that those things would really help us go a long way.
We're going to get back to digging into like the meat and potatoes of running a campaign. So I did see Vision Media Marketing, a prominent political public relations and consulting firm in Hudson County, helped you. Like how?
Not exactly. They actually was hired by my opponent.
Oh, okay, really? Okay, I bet maybe I read that wrong in the article or something. So you didn't use them?
No, they were actually my opponent's PR firm.
Oh, wow. Okay, I might have read that wrong then. But okay, so let me ask this question. Was there any official firm that you were able to hire, or maybe even a firm that volunteered that you could say, man, if I was to run again, or if there was somebody else that's a progressive, I would point them to join them?
That's a good question. And actually, I did not use any firm. My campaign was all volunteer powered.
Okay.
But this is what I'll say is that my volunteer campaign ran circles around this very fancy PR firm. So like the Vision Media, who you're talking about, you know, they cost a lot of money to hire them, right? They put a $50,000 Oppo research package up on me. And it was very sad and pathetic. You know, we ran circles around them. They were trying to run around saying that I was a former Republican, that I was taking money from Trump donors. They was trying to smear me, but their smears were very light. You know, that was light work. And my campaign was all volunteers, people working for free, and we ran circles around these people. They went as so far that they had to create 2 AstroTurf Twitter accounts to boost my opponent, and literally on the Twitter bio it says not affiliated with Albio Sierra's campaign, but all they do is tweet out stuff to support his campaign. So it was like very sad and very funny. And you could tell, like, you know, when you see a troll account, it was like created last week. It was like two accounts just like that.
Wow. Hey, I got to give you credit to your volunteer. Somebody did DM me and said, hey, can you retweet, you know, a tweet that was in favor of you? And, you know, I think he saw the type of account that I have. I'm a very progressive, openly progressive account. I'm definitely willing. I was tweeting out a lot of Lawrence Ham stuff. I definitely tweeted out that. So I could tell you had a very good volunteer army. What did you learn from running for the first time as a grassroots candidate? And what would you tell any lessons learned to other future grassroots candidates?
Yeah, what I would tell people is that unfortunately we live in a world where you have to raise a lot of money to compete. So I would say that you have to get your fundraising in order before you decide to run, because if you don't raise a lot of money, this is a barrier that I ran into a lot, is that people would say, oh man, Hector, you're running such a good campaign. I see you're doing really good, but how much money are you raising though? And if you don't have money in the bank, it's hard to buy literature, it's hard to buy digital ads, it's hard to really do the things that are going to make people take you seriously as a candidate. It's hard to have a really nice website without a little bit of money. It's hard to have literature, it's hard to have you know, all the, because as a grassroots campaign, people are going to judge you by how you look. If you're an incumbent, you can have the wackest website, you can have the most ugliest you know, literature. Nobody's gonna judge you on that. But if you're a young progressive or like a challenger to the establishment, if everything you do is not 100% on point, people are gonna say, "Oh, you're not a serious candidate. You're not. You don't look like you're ready for the big times." So I would tell people, like, make sure you don't slouch on your fundraising. Make sure that you put a good team around yourself for people who you can really trust and have a lot of faith in. And make sure that you're connecting with the people. Make sure that you're not afraid to go out there and talk to people, and make sure that you're not trying to play a safe game. You know, sometimes I feel like progressives run races just to make a point, not really to win. And I feel like people shouldn't do that. Don't do that to people, because people are putting their hopes and their dreams behind you. And so you should really run to win, not to make a point, because people are going to dedicate their time, their energy, their money to you. And I don't think it's right to run a race for people to say, well, I was just trying to prove a point. I wasn't really going to win this. And I feel like that's something that I would tell a person, is like, are you running to prove a point, or are you running to win this race?
Baseball, I saw that you raised $62,000, which is a lot of money. But the other guy, he had 6 figures. Did you get tempted? Did anybody say, hey, a fundraiser at my yacht, I could do a fundraiser in my high rise, and I could raise 100,000 for you? You know?
Nah, man, not at all. I don't even know. I don't even know those type of people. And if they would have did that, I would have said absolutely not. You know, I take no corporate PAC money. I took no fossil fuel money. So number one, those people are not going to give me money because I'm not for the issues that they want. You know, those people, they do those fundraisers and all that stuff for you so that you'll basically sell your backside for the issues and like not do anything for the people that you're fighting for. I would never do that. But even in the I don't know those people, and those people would not want to give me their money. So absolutely not. That never came across my screen, and even if it did, it would have been a very easy decision. The people who donated to me are people who truly believed in the issues I was fighting for, who really wanted to make a difference, and I appreciate it.
If you could go back in time to the beginning of your campaign, do anything differently, what would you do?
That's a good question. I think I probably would have started earlier. I would have definitely started earlier, because I think that, the reason I didn't really want to run, I really ran because I noticed that nobody was going to challenge my opponent. And, he's not a progressive. He really deserved the challenge. But I think that a couple more months on the ground would have given me a better opportunity to really set this thing in motion. I wish you always wish there was more time. And so I think with more time, we probably could have taken to it a lot harder. So if I could do anything different, I probably would have just started this race a couple months earlier.
Definitely would have been out of the COVID season. You would have had more door knocking time, definitely. Absolutely. All right, so as we come close to the conclusion of this interview, I got only 4 questions left, and a couple questions about Bernie Sanders. What did you think in the moment when Bernie Sanders had just won the Nevada election, and there's so much momentum? Like, that was the most joyous time for me personally. The establishment was in a hissy fit. Like, they were just pulling out all the Nazisms and all the different slanders towards him. What was in your moment? I know you're running your campaign, but you're watching this. How did you feel?
Well, I definitely felt that the progressive movement was insurgent and rising and was on the roll. But I also kind of saw that in Bernie, I feel like maybe he was a little too nice, even in his moments of victory. And I feel like he should have kept his foot on the gas. That's something I told my team all the time, is that, even as we're catching fire, even as things are looking up for us, don't start to get complacent. Don't think that oh, well, we got all this momentum, now we could just chill. I kept telling them, keep your foot on the gas, keep your foot on the gas, keep your foot on the gas, because like I said, the establishment is always going to look for a moment of weakness, and they're going to exploit it. So even though at that moment I saw a rising progressive movement, I also sort of felt like, maybe Bernie's turning a little too nice at this point, because he thinks that he's rising in the polls, and I think that maybe he should be a little tougher.
Gotcha. And now the downside, what did you think when you saw Biden won South Carolina? And I was going to ask it as a separate question, but I'm just going to throw it in. When the moderates consolidated their strength around Joe Biden, what do you think about that situation?
Yeah, I mean, what I saw is that they obviously recognized the risk of letting a progressive movement catch fire, and they were afraid of what was being put together. So they all said, let's put all our energy together, because that's what the establishment is going to do, is that they're going to put all their weight behind one person. Everybody, literally every single person started dropping out like flies. Mike Bloomberg, Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar, all these people just started dropping out. And you saw a coalescing around a candidate that every single one of them had said, is probably not going to be able to carry the torch all the way. But it just shows you that when the establishment takes a punch to the gut or a punch in the face, they start to get real panicky, and they start to say, well, whatever we got to do to win this, just do that. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you believe in this or not. Just sort of fall in line.
Who would be your choice for Biden to be vice president? And then who do you think he might actually pick?
So, I'll take the last one first. And who he's going to pick is, I think, is going to be a safe choice. Is probably going to be somebody like Kamala Harris, I believe. I think that's she's looking to be the most likely candidate. To me, it should have been somebody who has a lot of progressive credibility, somebody who could bring the Bernie side of the party together. Because at the end of the day, Bernie can endorse you, Bernie can run around sing all your praises. That doesn't mean that Bernie supporters are going to come on board as well. And I think Hillary Clinton saw that in the last go around, that just because Bernie Sanders says to vote for Hillary Clinton, people are going to come to their own decision. People are going to make their own choice. And so I think that I don't have a name in mind specifically, But I think it should be somebody who has a lot of progressive credibility and is somebody that people can say, you know, that the Bernie voters can say, I feel comfortable voting for this person, at least as vice president, and is somebody who can make the progressive wing of the party feel more comfortable voting for a President Joe Biden.
Yeah, no, me personally, I would have loved Nina Turner, who I don't think they would ever take in a million years.
Yeah.
My compromise choice would have been Barbara Lee, because she's almost like an establishment progressive, because she's been in Congress for so long. She's pretty much a reliable vote for Nancy Pelosi. She doesn't really speak out against Nancy Pelosi, but she is, I believe, one of the co-chairs of the Medicare for All caucus.
Yeah.
So she's really against, you know, the bloated budget of the military industrial complex.
Absolutely.
So that would have been my realistic, that if there's anybody that Biden could have picked, that, you know, a woman is really being promoted to be his VP, or he said he promised it to be a woman. And then you have a lot of people advocating for a Black woman. Yeah. She's got both of that, both of those characteristics down. I lied. I got one more question is, did you try to debate him? Like, how did that go? I know AOC, I think she kind of forced Crowley to debate, because I think they saw that she was rising enough that they wanted to at least test her debate bona fides. And that's how that happened. Tell me your situation with that.
So we had a candidate forum that was set up to be debate style, and my opponent ducked it. He didn't show up. And then every time people saw him in public and they would ask him, will you debate Hector? And he would just ignore them. Like he was afraid. He didn't want the smoke. He was very afraid. No, he definitely was very afraid, because he doesn't do good on the issues. You could tell, like, he doesn't have a campaign issues page. He's not very strong on the issues. I would have ran circles around him if it came down to it. So of course he was ducking it at every opportunity. He would not have debated me. I would have loved it. I wanted it very much for there to be a debate, but he was not going to do that, because he knows it would not have ended well for him.
Cory Booker didn't debate Lawrence Ham either. I was disappointed by that. And, you know, and I love debates because it allows you to learn more about issues, period. And then even I love local debates, because I watched my local forum debate and I learned a lot about my local town just by watching that debate. Here's the last question. Would he run again? Hector, will you run again?
Well, you know, ever since the campaign has ended, a lot of people have asked me to do just that. They've said, you know, you really created a movement here in Hudson County and across the district. I really think that you've got a lot of strength. You know, a lot of people have said, you know, for your first go around, you didn't do too bad. Maybe you want to try this again. At the end of the day, politics is really not about individuals. It's about issues. It's about the people. I used to say all the time, this is not about me. This is about you and the issues that you care about. So honestly, right now, that's not really something I'm thinking about. I really want to see what we do with this movement, all this energy that I've put together in the last couple of months. I'm really more interested to see what direction we take this in. And if that's in the cards, it'll be in the cards. And if it's not in the cards, it won't be. But like at this point, you know, that's not something I'm focused on specifically. I'm really more focused on movement building and coalition building in my home district, and trying to do the most with the energy that we've put together. So I'm more concerned with that than I am with personally seeking another office.
Awesome. So this is Case Study QB, and I want to thank Hector again for coming on the interview. Have a good day. All right.
Thank you so much, bro.
How did this interview make you a smarter voter? Debates are opportunities to learn more about the candidates, their district, and the issues. If the incumbent does not want to debate his challenger, that is like a person who wants to have a job without interviewing for it. It shows a lack of respect for the political process and for the voter. Do not give them your vote. Until next time, this is Case Study QB, making voters smarter.